Srimati Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan, esteemed guests and ladies and gentlemen, I am Tenzin Detun, Secretary of Tibet House, New Delhi. It is the greatest of honor for me to welcome you all this afternoon to the celebrations marking 50 years of Tibet House and the centenary of Men-Tsee-Khang in auspicious and blessed presence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. We'll begin this afternoon proceedings with auspicious chanting by Tibetan monks from Gyume Tantric Monastery in New Delhi.
Teacher.
Many thanks to the Gyume Tantric monks. I now request Mr. Tashi Thiring Puri, the Director of Men-Tsee-Khang Tibetan Medical and Astro Institute, to present Moment 2 to His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Oh, yeah.
I request Venerable Geshe Doji Damtul, the Director of Tibet House, to present Moment 2 to Sri Kiran Riji Juji.
Jitsu Sushi. Without Dundisha. Oh, yeah.
I request Dr. Thong Tamting, the Chief Medical Officer of the Tibetan Medical and Astro Institute, to offer memento to Sri Najib Jungji. Sri Najib Jungji. I request Venerable Dr. Thai to present memento to Venerable Kama Geli Yutho. Venerable Kama Geli Yutho. I request Mrs. Antonella Mathur to present memento to Srimati Dr. Kapila Watsyayan.
Hello.
Thank you. The chanting of Jaya Mangala Atha Gatha Sutta is the stanza of victory. These verses are recited by Buddhist devotees on auspicious occasions. The next sutta chanting will be performed by the students and devotees belonging to the Barua Buddhist community of Delhi NCR. These 8 verses recall the great events which took place between the Buddha and his powerful opponents, and how the Buddha overcame these disturbances calmly and peacefully through the merits of his great virtues and put them to the righteous way of living. Please welcome them.
था।
Thank you. Wonderful.
I thank all the Barwa Buddhist community group for the auspicious chanting. Mr. Subroto Barwa from Barwa Buddhist community will now present a memento of remembrance to His Holiness.
Correct. Total. 아니. Thank you. Wonderful. Come. Okay. Thank you. Huh? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to request Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdul, Director of Tibet House, the Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama in New Delhi, to address the audience.
Your Holiness the Dalai Lama, the spiritual head of Tibetan people, and the Nobel laureate, a revered and beloved figure the world over, Your Excellency Shri Kiran Rijiju, the Honorable Union Minister of State for Home Affairs, Government of India, Your Excellency Shri Najib Jang, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Your Excellency Venerable Karma Gelagyoto, the Honorable Kalin, Minister for Culture and Religion of the Central Tibetan Administration, Shrimati Dr. Kapila Vatsayan, a former member of the Parliament, Director of Asia Project, ISC, and a member of governing body of Tibet House, ladies, gentlemen. On behalf of the Tibet House, Cultural Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Delhi, and Men-Tsee-Khang, Tibetan Medical and Astro-Science Institute, Dharamsala, it is my honor and great pleasure to warmly welcome you all for the Golden Jubilee celebrations of Tibet House and the centenary anniversary celebrations of Men-Tsee-Khang. In the auspicious presence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we're indeed fortunate to be gathered together today in Delhi, the capital of the great nation of India. It is a land revered by Tibetans as Arya Bhumi, the land of nobilities, a land that has served as great inspiration to the culture of Tibet. Namaste and Tashidalek. These two institutions, a product of the prescience of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, have made great strides in sustaining, nurturing, and advancing the great legacy of the wisdom of philosophy, psychology, logic, medicine, and Astro-Science, primarily inherited from the erstwhile Nalanda University. The greatness of the then Nalanda University lies in the sophisticated wisdom traditions of the 17-grained Nalanda masters. It is truly remarkable how the profound philosophical thoughts of the towering scholar, sage, and polymath, such as Nagarjuna, conceived nearly 2,000 years ago, resonate so much with the intricate thoughts of quantum physics developed by great scientists such as Niels Bohr, Albert Einstein in the last century. Other Nalanda masters, such as Arya Sangha and Arya Vasubandhu's writings in psychology, have a lot to contribute to the understanding of the functions of the brain in neuroscience. Bodhisattva Shantideva's masterpiece, A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, is an invaluable companion to the study of contemporary clinical psychology. The wisdom legacies of this great institution, which in a sense is a treasure of the entire world, took birth in India. Unfortunately, over the centuries, its tradition weakened and got lost in its country of birth. Today, it is a great blessing for the world at large, and India in particular, to have with us His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who holds the highest authority over the erstwhile Nalanda University tradition pertaining to the wisdom legacies. I pray that everyone makes the most of this opportunity of your auspicious presence on this earth and in India, the land of the nobilities. If there is one nation who has the legitimate authority to revive and take pride in this wisdom legacy of Nalanda University, it is India. And I pray, Your Holiness, that this noble wish of yours to see a revival of this tradition in its land of origin is spontaneously fulfilled. Another area to give great attention to is addressing the many crises in the world today with respect to corruption, terrorism, gender discrimination, the great and the growing gap between rich and poor, global warming, and so forth. While measures are being taken to solve these problems, they are still escalating. This is a clear indication that the measures taken thus far are either inadequate or are not more than just treating the symptoms of a far deeper complications. Approach offered by Your Holiness, the Dalai Lama, to address these global crises is most rational and practical, one which can revolutionize the whole psyche of human beings in this regard. Your Holiness, if I may take the liberty, I will attempt to summarize your thinking in this regard in 2 points. Number one, why these crises happen, and number two, how to curb the crisis. One, on why these crises happen, Your Holiness ascribes them to the limitations of the modern education system. While it is so well designed to develop the brain, it doesn't render any effective strategy for the development of the heart. Your Holiness's thoughts resonate with the view of Albert Einstein, who said that the problems of the world may all be distilled down to the lack of universal warm-heartedness and a confining of one's love and affection to one's immediate circle of friends and relatives, which he portrays is only a delusion due to lacking wisdom to see the broader reality of the interconnectedness of oneself and others. The modern education system fails to address this problem. On how to overcome this limitation, Your Holiness proposes that the lacunae of the modern education system be removed by introducing a system of universal ethics in the educational system, which you have termed universal ethics. That is a system of ethics grounded on the quality of warm-heartedness, which people all over the world, whether believers or non-believers, can embrace. Under the very capable leadership of Professor Vivek Suneja, the then Pro-Vice Chancellor of Delhi University, your vision of introducing universal ethics in the modern education system was implemented in Delhi University as a pilot project in the year 2012. I remember one of the professors involved in teaching this course articulating during one of the workshops that I don't know how much this program helps the students. No doubt, I benefited a lot myself and learned a lot from this. This is a measure of the success of the implementation of universal ethics in Delhi University. I pray that many other concerned offices, officials, universities, colleges, schools, and institutions shoulder the common responsibility of making the world a better place through taking inspiration from this project under the guidance of Your Holiness. To save the world from the current crisis, despite the steep rise in the standard of modern education, I call upon the visionary, dynamic leaders from all walks of life, from as many different nations to join hands with Your Holiness to make this vision a reality. May Your Holiness live long for many, many more years to come. May we soon see the dawn of your intricate dream of introducing universal ethics and the modern education system for the good of the whole humanity, and may the erstwhile Nalanda tradition flourish once again in the land of his birth as one of the great treasures of the world. Thank you, each and every one of you. Sarva Mangalam. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe Dorje Damdu. Now, I would like to request Mr. Tashit Puri, Director of Men-Tsee-Khang, Tibetan Medical and Astro-Science Institute, to give an overview of the 4-day event.
Geshe Dorje Damdu, Director of Tibet House in Delhi, has welcomed His Holiness the Dalai Lama, distinguished guests on the dais and on the floor, and the large number of public who contribute to this big day. Now, my responsibility is to give an overview of the 4-day event, Legacy of Tibet, Nalanda tradition of Buddhism, Tibetan medicine, Sowa Rigpa, and Tibetan Astro-Science tradition, awakening the sanctity of life, healthy mind, healthy body. Last year, the Tibet House and Men-Tsee-Khang, Sowa Rigpa, organized a 5-day program on the same theme. It was a great success, judged in terms of exposure, deliverance, and encouragement we received to do more. Both Geshe Dorje Damdu and I agreed that we need to do such events more regularly. What is very special this year for us all is the opportunity to see and hear His Holiness. The large presence of the public, especially many younger generation, truly makes this event more beautiful and more meaningful. This certainly encourages us to do more. The 4-day events are free to the public, including consultations with senior Tibetan doctors and senior Tibetan Astro-Science practitioners. Apart from exhibiting many religious and cultural artifacts at the Tibet House Museum, we also have an exhibition on Tibetan medicine, Sowa Rigpa, and Tibetan Astro-Science. Some scholars give presentations on neuroscience, Buddhist psychology, and Western psychology. Experts from different medical traditions will present on joining hands in the fight against cancer. Parallels between Arya Nagarjuna's philosophy of emptiness and quantum physics, secular ethics, construction of Zen mandala of Medicine Buddha by 4 monks from Jude Monastery in Dharamsala. The staff of the Tibet House and Men-Tsee-Khang Sowa Rigpa work hard. Even then, we realize that considering the opportunities ahead, our hard work is far removed from the expectations of His Holiness. Your Holiness, today we rededicate our services, firmly believing in a noble goal and reminding ourselves that what we do are in the area of rare treasures of Tibet that can benefit humanity. Finally, since the theme of this 4-day event is healthy mind and healthy body, I wish to end with a quote from His Holiness. I quote, "Humankind needs a healthy mind and a healthy body, and we Tibetans can contribute to that need even though we are living as refugees." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Tashi Sering Furi, for giving a wonderful overview of the event. The dance by the students of Men-Tsee-Khang represents the unity of the provinces of the 3 provinces of Tibet and is a gesture of gratitude for the tireless efforts of His Holiness the Dalai Lama for his people and the world.
Thank you, students of Men-Tsee-Khang, for the wonderful performance. I now request Mr. Dipesh Thakur to give an overview of the master's course in Nalanda Buddhist philosophy.
Thank you, Tibetan. His Holiness, Venerable Geshe-la, all venerable monks and nuns, Honorable Lieutenant Governor, Honorable Tibetan and Indian Minister, respected Dr. Kapila, distinguished guest, and all my dear friends present here. It is really my great honor to be present here with His Holiness and all of you and present this brief overview of Master's course in Nalanda Buddhist philosophy. Just a brief overview about myself. I'm just an average Indian born to middle-class parents, electronics engineer by qualification and business software expert by profession. Like many strange things about our modern education, there's hardly any link between my education and what I do. And if we see, my first introduction to Buddhism came when I went to Tushita Dharam Court in 2010, and then there was a gap of a few years, and then I was very fortunate to visit Tibet House since 2012, and I've been receiving numerous teachings from Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdullah. And what I found fascinating was that one can use logic to analyze reality the way the great Nalanda Buddhist Pandits have taught, and not only analyze the reality, but also increase one's compassion. So that I found very fascinating and very practical. And if one visits the erstwhile Nalanda, one finds the ruins right now, but the Nalanda tradition, which is so rich in wisdom and is very, very relevant in our modern times. This great legacy of Nalanda in philosophy, psychology, and logic remains vibrant amongst the Tibetan monastic university at Sera, Drepung, and Ganden, and as well as Shedras at Sakya, Ningma, and Kagyu. However, there are very modern people who don't speak Tibetan, and they have extremely busy lives. So keeping that in mind, over past 1.5 years, I had requested Venerable Geshe-la numerous times to teach us, students who've been willing to go a little bit deeper and get teachings directly in English. So keeping all that in mind, we designed this course. And this course, basically, if I give a brief summary, it has comprehensive subjects trying to cover what was in the erstwhile Nalanda University. Teachings will be given directly in English, which is quite historical in the sense there are people who are willing to take teachings, but they have to learn Tibetan if they want to go deeper. So this is really the first time we're going to get direct teachings from teachers like Geshe-la and the other guest teachers who also would be Geshes, but who would be speaking English directly. We also created a flexibility for people who are very busy to be able to attend in person or do the course online. And we got initial feedback for some people who have very busy lives. They can't commit extensively to the course. They want to listen to the teachings. So we created something called the assignment mode, which is much lighter on the busy schedule of people. And most importantly, it's highly, highly subsidized. And still, after the subsidy, we're giving discounts for the monastics and students studying in universities. So it's quite a historical event for Tibet House. And the response received in last 4 months or so is quite overwhelming. As of now, we've received close to about 365 or 366 applications from over 42 countries. So we're just quite overwhelmed, and we are also 150 people from India who have applied for this course. And we are extremely excited about this course, and some of them I know are a little nervous also for exams and assignments, but I'm sure we'll pull it through. So I'd like to thank all the people who worked very hard to come where we are today. I know it's just a start, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody, the Tibet House team, all the volunteers who worked very, very hard, late nights, trying to make sure that things are in place. And obviously, We can't thank enough Venerable Geshe-la, Geshe Dorji Damdullah, who has been extremely kind in agreeing to give these teachings, very kind and patient, trying to accommodate so many people from different parts of the world. His Holiness, in 2013, you visited Delhi at IGNCA, and during that event you had mentioned Indians are gurus as far as Nalanda Buddhism goes, but not the modern Indians. So a modern Indian like me and my Dharma friends who are sitting there, we are taking a small step in direction of being a good Chela by participating in this course. We do understand and are moved very deeply by the suffering that the Tibetan community has suffered to make this Dharma come to India and spread all over the world. So the least that we can do is make an effort to make ourselves a better human being and be of some benefit to others. So His Holiness, I, on behalf of everyone associated with this course, we pray for your long, healthy life and request that we are able to receive teachings from you till samsara ends. We seek your blessings for this course. And now I would request Venerable Geshe-la to request His Holiness to launch this course. Venerable Geshe-la, please. I'll open it, Holiness. It's from the back side.
오, 그거 There's cameraman. I think they are. I think this is good. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness. Thank you, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdu, and thank you, Mr. Dipesh Thakur. We now release Men-Tsee-Khang publication, and I request Dr. Rinzin Saung, Head of Research and Development Department, to present them to His Holiness and all the excellencies on the dais.
그래야지. 아니, 오. 오야. 당연히 너무 거쳐. 소리고. 오야. 진짜 아따도스. 니 랑크 했다. 말이 그게도 미것이 빼면 나서야 페맹 쇼핑면 누가 Okay. I think I want to show you this one. I usually call 17 Nalanda professors. These are the source of knowledge, which is not only ancient knowledge, but also very relevant to today's world. So these masters, I think something very important. As a Tibetan, I may say, unfortunately, all these are Indian. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness, and thank you, Dr. Ringzin Sangmo, Thukche Chenang. I would now request the Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Shri Najib Jung, to please address the audience.
Much more comfortable. Simple and more comfortable. Oh, yeah.
Holiness, Mr. Rijiju, Madam Kapila Vatsyayan, ladies and gentlemen, all participants, I have a question to ask you, and you have to give me a one-word reply. Are you all not feeling blessed in the august presence of His Holiness right now? That's a very feeble yes. That's it. Ladies and gentlemen, I truly feel blessed at this huge, huge honor to be here in the presence of someone I think whose soul today is unmatched. I opened this book just now, and the first page I opened, I'll read a paragraph from here. This is the 6th level of the manifest, and it says, on the directly facing the Bodhisattva abides in an equipoised mind. He approaches the truth of full awakening of the Buddha. So he who has seen the truth of origination through dependence, abiding in wisdom, he shall attain true cessation. Today we sit in the presence of one such man. This country has a history of 6,000–7,000 years. We have a claim to be a moral force in the world. Ours is a country and a land of Mahavir, is the land of the Buddha, is the land of Nanak, is the land of Kabir, is the land of Farid. It's also the land of Gandhi. And now with pride we say, it is also the land of the Dalai Lama. I believe India today is poised to demand its rightful moral place in the world. We are living in an extremely, extremely difficult and challenging environment. A world besotted with problems, but the worst problem is the hate of hate amongst men. I believe God created man as his choicest of creations. So said the Bible, so said the Quran. So what brings man to bring out the worst of animal instincts that we are seeing right round the globe? And so when we hear and listen to His Holiness, and that is the message that we need to pass on to the world, the message of compassion, the message of love, and above all, what he says always, the message of inclusiveness. There is no difference in the religious paths that we hear of. I heard him this morning. I am not against religion. They all teach the same things. So how is it that there is so much conflict? It is because we are forgetting that the essence of the Almighty resides in each one of us. The eternal Brahman, we are part of Him, each one of us. So the lesson of inclusiveness that we hear from His Holiness is so critical to the society of today. The lesson of love and compassion that we heard from Christ, that we heard from Rumi, that we heard from Nanak, and now 400 years later, or perhaps after Gandhiji, we now hear from His Holiness. I do not want to stand between you and him. Again, I must reiterate that all of us, each one of us in this hall, is blessed to be here today. May you live long, sir. May we bask in the shadow of this banyan tree for years to come and stay as best we are. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, for speaking so beautifully and evocatively in His Holiness's presence. I would now like to request the Honorable Union Minister of State for Home Affairs, Shri Kiran Rijiju, to please say a few words. Thank you.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Honorable Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Najib Jangji, Venerable Karma Gelek Yuthok, the Minister of Religion and Culture, Central Tibetan Administration, Srimati Dr. Kapila Vatsen, Director Asia Project at IIC Delhi, Reverend Lamas, elders, brothers and sisters. I am equally blessed to be amidst the gathering where His Holiness the Dalai Lama is present with us, and for a very important occasion. And personally, I realize that whenever His Holiness the Dalai Lama speaks something out of his mind, it is so much relevant to today's situation, especially for the upcoming generation. And we are very fortunate to have him in India, and his traveling across the globe has a deep impact, whomever or wherever the people come in contact with him. I have realized that the more we listen to His Holiness, the more beneficial we become. And this 4 days event, combinedly arranged by the Tibet House and the Men-Tsee-Khang, the Tibetan Medical and Astro-Science Institute, is very apt. I would like to compliment and congratulate the Tibet House for completing 50 years of their existence in Delhi, and also the Men-Tsee-Khang Tibetan Medical and Astro-Science Institute for their completion of 100 years. So this is a centenary celebration for them. And I'm fortunate that I've been invited to share this moment with you. The Men-Tsee-Khang, as we all know, it's a very ancient practice. And we call it Sowa Rigpa also in the whole of Himalayan region. Now it has been widely spread across the globe. Many people are started to recognize. And in 2007, I also realized that Sowa Rigpa is not being recognized in India as a formal way of treatment or recognition by the government. So we moved in the parliament, and then the health minister, we had a detailed discussion, and finally it has been included into the recognition. And under the Ayush, we have a ministry in the government of India to teach and to get benefit from this Men-Tsee-Khang, what we call Sowa Rigpa. So this is not only for the Tibetans or the Indians, but for the humanity. It's very beneficial. So this event which you are organizing here, I'm sure everybody, those who will be part of the blessings of His Holiness, will really reap the benefit. I would not like to take much time. I have got few important things to share, but when His Holiness Dalai Lama is around, I don't want to speak much words, but rather I prefer to listen, to receive His blessing. So I will not take much time. But I would like to just make a few remarks. Over the years, what we have learned from His Holiness Dalai Lama, many people seek happiness from outside. They try to get themselves enriched from outside support instead of looking within themselves. This includes involving in health-damaging indulgences, which makes us slaves to our senses. We should instead learn to control our own mind, as developed and cultured mind enables us to abandon wholesome ways and cultivate wholesome lifestyles. As Lord Buddha also said, no enemy can harm one as much as one's own unwholesome thoughts. Healthy mind is capable of harnessing great power and gives us the solace we so desperately need. And I realized that His Holiness has connected the traditional teaching with the modern science so well that if we listen more carefully, we become more relevant to the changing time. And His Holiness is so modern actually in his thought. The teachings are ancient, but it's so relevant to our modern times. I would like to especially inform our Tibetan friends that you all are living in India for a very long time now. Please don't feel that you are refugees. Please feel this is your home. India is your home. And I also call upon the Lieutenant Governor Najib Jangji, who is here, that in Delhi also, we must do everything to secure and to provide all kind of help to the Tibetan brothers and sisters who are living in Delhi. From my own office, from the Government of India, we are committed. His Holiness, when he came second time to this land, the land of Buddha, the land where Buddhism is born. The first time His Holiness came in 1956 on the occasion of 2,500 years of Mahaparinirvana. And the second time, when His Holiness came, India was blessed for the second time. His Holiness always says that he is the Chela of India because of his humbleness and because of Buddhism being born in India. He says that India is Guru and Tibet and the Tibetans are Chelas of Indians. But let me make it very clear. For Indians and for the humanity, Your Holiness, you will always be the Guru. You are the epitome of love and compassion. And since His Holiness has always said that he is a very dependable Chela of India, but I would like to add, and I would like to call upon my Indian friends, that let us be a very well and very dependable Chela of His Holiness Dalai Lama. He has got us back our tradition. The great Nalanda tradition is revived from Tibet. It has given back to us. What belonged to us, we never could preserve it. What His Holiness Dalai Lama has given back to us, we must be able to preserve it. So brothers and sisters, as I said, I will not like to dwell upon the issues for long in the presence of His Holiness, but to just inform you that from our side, from the Government of India's side, we will do whatever is possible at our command and to ensure that His Holiness and the entire Tibetan community, that we continue to work together, because His Holiness is not a person or not a figure for Tibetans, but it's not only for Indians too, it's for the whole globe, and we are honored to have His Holiness in our Holy Land. Thank you so much. Tashidele, Jai Hind.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister Kiran Rijiju-ji, for your very kind address, and particularly for the very warm words with which you have addressed our Tibetan audience here. Thank you. So we are now coming close to the moment that we have all been waiting for. I've been requested to introduce myself so very briefly. My name is Antonella Mathur. I came to India from Italy about 40 years ago to learn Hindi, and I have not gone back since. Here I met my husband and my profession as I served at the Italian embassy for over 3 decades. But above all, I had the great fortune of meeting with the Buddha Dharma, which is personified here today in His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And I have been associated with Tibet House for over 35 years. As for Men-Tsee-Khang, I've only visited as a patient, but I have for many years too. Now, Your Holiness, the Dalai Lama, spiritual head of the Tibetan people, Nobel Peace Prize winner, revered and beloved figure the world over, whose name is synonymous with messages of universal human values, secular ethics, interfaith dialogue, and above all, who conquers the hearts of all with the immense grace and power of tolerance, wisdom, love, and compassion. Your Holiness, on behalf of this wonderful audience, may we now request you to kindly address us.
Okay, thank you. No problem. Thank you. Thank you. 장도 산조 배버스 배지양 선이 배축 투야요래. 그래서 엔터링에디 그냥 내 인지 창조했게 그래. 그래서 장도 삼는나라 오 저르지 이 요슈게 그 대마찬 내 인지 창조했게 거를 뭐더 시작부터 하게 야말다. 내 렌처지 셔도 거래. Dear respected elder brothers and sisters and the rest of brothers and sisters, I'm extremely happy come here. I think seeing a lot of young people and expressing, you see, your deep feeling, some kind of full of sort of spirit and freshness and enthusiasm. I really appreciate. If we want change our world, we need full of enthusiasm and determination, willpower. A lot of problems there. If you look only problem, then sometimes we demoralize. Oh, I cannot do anything, like that kind of feeling. But from wider perspective, if you look logically, many problems which we are facing is actually our own creation. Therefore, logically, we also have the ability to reduce these problems, man-made problem, eventually can eliminate. So therefore, you see, we should keep enthusiasm. No matter how difficult it is, we must do something. So I very much sort of appreciate the audience, also the appearance, I think wonderful. Maybe in some corner, maybe some sleeping, maybe. Otherwise, they all are the fully sort of alert. Wonderful, thank you. Then I want to thank Tibet House and the Men-Tsee-Khang. So you also organized this, and you have some programs. And the bulletin, you see, mentioned all your activities. So I very much appreciate. The Men-Tsee-Khang saw Rigpa taking care about our body. The whole medical system actually is taking care about our body. But Tibetan medical system, more holistic, including sort of mental disturbances. A certain medicine, especially meant for mental sort of depression or too much sort of stress, right? Like that. So, the Men-Tsee-Khang is mainly, I think, taking care about our body. The Tibet House, this program, actually taking care about our mind, about our inner peace. That is something very important. I think this, according to my own sort of life, life experience. When I was young, I consider a young student, one monk young student, I was sort of a very lazy student, not much interest for study. At that age, around 13, 14, So I developed some interest. So then I carry more serious study. Then finally, there's a tragic situation developed. And then 59 March escaped. There's no other choice. There's a real danger, even my own life. So we escaped. Then we reached India. So in early part of our refugee life, our main effort, main concern is preservation of our, tradition or our sort of knowledge. And the proper way to preserve this knowledge combined with modern education. So we asked Pandit Nehru, say, please create Tibetan school especially for Tibetan. And then, you see, we also have the opportunity to study Tibetan and certain Tibetan knowledge. And meantime, 59, few thousand monk students and scholars there. So we asked Indian government, please make some special arrangement using these young monk students as well as their teacher. The government of India graciously arranged. So one way we try to educate our younger generation, and modern education, at the same time try to preserve our own traditional knowledge, these things. Then 1973, I have opportunity to visit different European countries. Then 79, Soviet Union, and Mongolia at that time, a communist country. And then same year also is a visit America. So my visit to Europe, 73. So then I start talk the sense of global responsibility on the basis of West, East, South, North. We all part of the world. We all taking fresh air of this blue planet. We all human beings. So a lot of problems happen on the too much emphasis, differences on nationality, races, and poor, rich and poor, educated, uneducated, and also different religious faith. So all these are our own creation. So we need a sense of global responsibility. So then gradually, I felt, the cultural heritage or knowledge which we kept over 1,000 years, and also among the Tibetan refugee community, we are trying our best to preserve these. Now maybe, from this tradition can share the other people. This sort of, with this view, now more than 30 years, I developed serious discussion with modern scientists So then I found there are, I think, some similarities. And also, you see, dialogue with scientists, you see, it becomes very clear, mutual benefit, mutual learning. So usually I describe Buddha Shakyamuni. One aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni was founder of Buddhism. One aspect of Buddha is great philosopher, a great thinker. In all major religious tradition, I feel it's three aspects. I usually tell three aspects. One aspect is religion. Religion means compassion, affection, forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, self-discipline. These are the essence of all major religious tradition. So, all major religious tradition, aspect of dharma or religion, same. And same potential, same practice, same potential. That's why, in spite a lot of the ups and downs, the over 2,000, at least 2,000 years or nearly 3,000 years, these different religious traditions still remain source of inspiration to millions of people. Then another aspect of these different religious traditions is philosophy. In the philosophical field, there is differences. A major world religious tradition is they believe creator. And one Sankhya philosophy, one part of Sankhya philosophy, and Jain philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, you see, they believe law of causality, karma, on the basis of continuation of our mind, no beginning. So, you see, there is no creator. So, there are major different, philosophical thinking. And then within non-theistic religion, these three, there are differences. And even within Buddhism, as far as philosophical different viewpoint is concerned, there's a four major school of thought: Vibhashek, Sautrantic, Chittamantra, and Madhyamika. And each philosophical school of thought had sub-schools there. So, in philosophical field, there is differences. But then we have to ask, what's the purpose of these different philosophy? Same purpose. To strengthening practice of love. For example, the concept of creator. Wonderful. God is infinite love. So we all created by such sort of God. And no previous life, this very life created by God. Very powerful approach to strengthening the practice of love, forgiveness, these things. So non-theistic religions, so different philosophy, you see, bring the whole responsibility on our own shoulder. So that also is one, it's a very effective sort of way of approach. So two different people, different cultural heritage, and including different climate, and there are different mental disposition. So we need different way of approach to increase confidence, conviction about this inner value. So, even within the follower of same teacher, Buddha, there are differences, different mental dispositions. So Buddha compelled to teach different philosophical views. So it is very clear. It is quite clear. You see, we need different philosophical views according to different people who have different mental disposition. Then third aspect is what you call tradition or certain sort of cultural heritage. That, frankly speaking, you see, the way of life and certain sort of way of life has very much influenced the existing society system, feudal system. So I think, so therefore, that part, I think, according to new reality, some sort of habit have to change, have to modify. The first aspect, religion, no need to change. We must carry the original sort of practice. Second, philosophy also according to different mental disposition. You have to study all these different philosophy, then look according to your own sort of mental disposition. Then when you find this philosophical approach is more suitable for you, then you should take that philosophy. Okay. The cultural aspect, as I mentioned this from time to time, I think we need. Therefore, within the Tibetan tradition, you see, generally, you see, Dalai Lama institution considers something very important. Then, I feel not important. As early as 1969, one of my formal statements, I stated, this very institution of Dalai Lama should continue or not up to Tibetan people. And then, 2011, I totally retired from temporal responsibility. Last 4 centuries, Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temporal and spirituality. Now that formally, officially, or proudly, happily, voluntarily cease. Because the situation changed. I think now today, whether in political field or religious field, I think some kind of sort of authoritarian sort of thing are outdated. So like that. So therefore, now is my point is, in different philosophical sort of views, I describe Buddha. One aspect is philosopher, one aspect is great thinker, and then one aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, one unique thing is I consider Buddha Shakyamuni was ancient Indian scientist. Reason, one of his teaching, he mentioned, oh my follower, monks, scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So this is very much scientific way of thinking, scientific way of approach in order to seek truth or reality. So therefore, I have sort of courage, full sort of cooperation with modern scientists. These days, I myself describe half Buddhist monk, half scientist. My late great friend, one scientist, Verala. So when we discuss about science or certain different topics, then he used to say, oh, now I wear a scientific hat. Then he speaks certain sort of scientific point. Then some occasion he say, now I wear Buddhist hat. and explain Buddhist sort of thinking or Buddhist sort of certain sort of concept. So since Verala, late Verala, you see, very close in my mind, so I also try to be follower of him. So Buddhist hat, science hat. So I also used to try to be Buddhist, at the same time scientist. So now, today's world, I think in spite a lot of material progress or development and highly sort of developed scientific research or many, many things, but still a lot of killing, a lot of suffering, huge gap, rich and poor. Not only global level, southern world, northern world, but also within the same nation, there's huge gap, rich and poor. Last few days in BBC, is mentioned in Nigeria, thousands of children dying due to starvation. And some picture is shown. Very sad. Same planet, same human being, some are, carry luxuries for the lifestyle and waste it, also the waste surplus. At the same planet, some people, particularly children, suffer. So all this, I think, due to our negligence, we just think ourselves, and lack of sense of oneness of humanity. If we really develop sense of sameness, of oneness of humanity, then how can you remain indifferent? Those innocent children dying due to starvation, and also killing human being by elephant, by tiger. Sometimes it becomes news. But a human being killed by a human being now almost become normal. Terrible. I think it is absolutely wrong. Same planet, same human being, some part dying due to human sort of activities or human sort of behavior. We remain indifferent. It's, I think, totally wrong. We have to think. And as a Buddhist practitioner, we daily, practice, and we describe mother-centered being, entire centered being, consider one's own as dear as your own mother. If you really seriously pray these things, then the practical level, other galaxies, we have no connection. Only this planet. Even within this planet, the limitless different sort of form of life, or different species of mammals or birds like that. We cannot also communicate these centered beings. At the beginning of this year, I was in Karsa, Mangandi, Rochester, Mayo Clinic, where I live. There are some deers, beautiful deers. When I sing these deers, they also same sentient being. Want happiness, do not want suffering. And mainly these animals, no intelligence, no sort of, no like human intelligence. Limited intelligence maybe. So no language. So I cannot do anything. Think more, sometimes tears come. Besides that, nothing can be done. So then only hope is 7 billion human beings. We have this human brain, human language, different language, but we can communicate. So then we have to think. If you really pray for entire sentient being, then you must do something. There's 7 billion human beings on this same planet. Then, I think material development, materialistic life, I think there are sort of, also the joyfulness or happiness very much sort of depend on sensorial experiences. So, beautiful sort of articles, and beautiful musics, and tasteful food, and smell, and touch, including sex. So these are sensorial level experience. Obviously, sensorial level, everything okay. But mental level, too much sadness, too much stress, too much fear. Then sensorial level so pleasurable, pleasure thing, not much help. We can see. Mentally, peace, happy. Sensorial level, pains, we can subdue. Mental level pain cannot subdue by physical level, sensorial level, sort of the pleasure. So obviously, mental level experience are more important than sensorial level experience. Now, materialistic life entirely is based on sensorial level experiences. Now, this is not adequate. As a human being, I think real destroyer of our inner peace is negative emotion, such as anger, hatred, fear. These are not sensorial level, but mental level. So the method or the right approach is in order to reduce these, relying on sensorial level, you see, alcohol or drug or tranquilizer, not really effective. Because, you see, these bring some sort of limited physical level, sort of some calmness or like that. But since these problems, mental level, develop, so the counterforce also must develop in mental level. So training of mind is very important. Now in the West, you see more and more people now really showing interest about meditation or mindfulness. This is just sort of beginning. Meditation alone. Meditation usually, you see, to consider the single-pointed sort of mind. That's some kind of temporary sort of tranquilizer. Oh. The real thing is analytical meditation. We call vipassana, shamatha vipassana. Vipassana is most sort of appropriate sort of way to tackle our destructive emotion. In order to do these things, firstly, we should have sufficient knowledge about the system of emotion, system of mind. Usually I call map of emotion. From where it starts, what is its causes and the conditions, what's the effect, and what is sort of interrelations with other sort of emotions. Once we fully sort of aware these things, then much easier tackle this destructive emotion. In the past, you see, these things remain as the part of religious practice. Now time comes, as I mentioned earlier, you see, in order to share with other people, should not consider these are practice of religion or this is practice of Buddhism. No, simply academic subject. Usually I describe hygiene of physical. Similarly, we need hygiene of emotion. Now there, in order to carry hygiene of physical, we need more sort of knowledge about the physical body element. Similarly, hygiene of emotion, we need more knowledge about the whole system of emotion. So these things considered as an academic subject for well-being of this very life and the day-to-day life. Not talking about next life, not talking about a nirvana. Simply try to create stable, happy mind, peaceful mind, through that way, peaceful. Because through that way, healthy body. Now scientists also say the healthy mind is key factor for healthy body. Constant fear, constant anger are actually eating our immune system. And then furthermore, nowadays some scientists, after they are sort of careful sort of observe or examination, or investigate what is basic human nature, mainly carry on a very, very young infant, 5 months, 6 months, language not yet developed. So showing different picture and what's their reaction. So then they concluded basic human nature is compassionate. So this is really a hopeful sign. If basic human nature is anger, then no hope. Then better to pray to God, bring to heaven or send hell, and this world become empty sooner the better. But on the other hand, the basic human nature is more compassionate. Therefore, there is a real sort of hope. Now, the important matter or method regarding that is education. So existing education system very much oriented about material value. So whole generation who come from that kind of education, then whole their way of life is materialistic life, a materialistic culture. I think now India, traditionally all these knowledge developed in this country and also export to China, to Tibet, Burma, Sri Lanka, Thailand, all these countries. But the original place, the India itself, should not much pay attention about these things. So now time come, you Indian pay more attention about traditional your knowledge about inner world. Not necessarily become Buddhist or religious minded. If you are non-believer, yes, remain non-believer. But you see, with fuller knowledge about this inner sort of mental system, then you can able to tackle about our inner disturbances. So now I convinced eventually, over 1,000 years, certain sort of knowledge which we kept. Now seems time come, share these to rest of the humanity. So perhaps some of you know Kanjuru and Tenjuru, the translation of Buddha's own word and translation of Nalanda Master's sort of teaching. Altogether, more than 300 volumes. I think since 10, 15 years ago. So we thought, now according to the content of these 300 volumes, we can divide 3 parts. 1 part science, 1 part philosophy, 1 part religion. So religion, a concern for Buddhists. But science, particularly science of mind, is something common for entire 7 billion human beings. And then certain philosophy, there are 2 categories. One philosophy directly related with Buddhism, Buddha Dharma. The another philosophy is just as the general sort of the concept, like a true truth. It is very much sort of related with quantum physics. No. There is differences, appearances, and ultimate reality. So we should call true truth. Kasa, Sanskrit Shingibe.
Samvriti Satya.
No, love that.
Samvrit.
Oh, come here.
In Sanskrit, they are called Samvriti Satya and Brahma Satya.
So these things quite interesting. One of my Indian friend, his nickname, India's Sakharov, the physicist, a nuclear physicist. Once, now he no longer. Once in Delhi here, it's a 1 hour sort of meeting gathering. He told me, quantum physics in the West, something new concept, new idea. In this country, 2,000 years ago, already that concept developed. He told me. Some of Nagarjuna's writing, he found that concept. Nothing objectively exists. So that kind of philosophy, I think, just common for everybody in order to know the reality. That also helpful. So a lot of our destructive emotion, very much based on appearances. So the countermeasure is try to think deeper level of reality, then no proper basis of anger and attachment. Here also my friend, one scientist, one American, Aaron Beck, very old, much older than me. When I first met him, his age 84. Now my last meeting him, and then his age 96 or 7. So he told me, he's a scientist, not religious minded people. So several decades he sort of deal with people who mentally much disturbed, mainly by anger. Then he told me, I think at least 3-4 decades he's sort of treating these person who mentally is disturbed, mainly anger. Eventually, he found his conclusion is when we develop anger, the object which that person feel angry appears very negative. That everybody have same experience, including myself. When we develop anger, the object seems very negative, then want to hit, something like that. So you see, he mentioned, you see, actually 90% of that negativeness is mental projection. There's exactly Nagarjuna stated that. So therefore, you see, some of these, Buddhist philosophical thinking is something quite useful, irrespective whether Buddhist or non-Buddhist, whether believer or non-believer. So now I have some sort of confidence. I think the certain idea, certain sort of concept which we kept over 1,000 years in Tibet, mainly introduced by Shanta Rakshita, great scholar of Nalanda, and Madhyamika philosopher, and great logician. So he, in spite of old age, he accepted invitation from Tibetan emperor, 8th century. He went there. Sometimes I sort of feel, one great famous Nalanda master, after he accepted sort of invitation from Tibetan king, when he entered Tibet, I think such great sort of famous thinker or respected sort of master on Tibetan horse or yak, then eating Tibetan zamba. He must be find it initially, I think, difficult, but I think he satisfied with Tibetan devotion, Tibetan friendly attitude. So remaining his life spent in Tibet. So he, since our real teacher in 8th century, the Nalanda master, he himself, great logician and philosopher. So as his follower, we Tibetan still carry the Nalanda tradition. So I often discuss, you Indian, historically, our guru, our teacher, we are Indian chela. Now, fortunate or unfortunate, chela become non-knowledgeable. Guru. So in any way, this sort of knowledge is your knowledge, your treasure. Now world facing some crisis about emotion. At such period, I think ancient Indian knowledge is not only ancient one, but very relevant to today's world. So therefore, it is very important to revive this ancient Indian knowledge. So I'm very, very happy. More and more young Indian now really showing interest, or not only interest, I think serious desire for study about these ancient Indian great thinkers, their view. So it is really encouraging. So Tibet House, also you see now, because of that circumstances, Tibet House and Tumdula, and now he, I think, very, very actively, you see, carrying this work. So wonderful. So mainly because there is people who really, with eagerness to learn more. So then our teacher also become Kasoda useful, active. So therefore, this also, you see, interdependency. Good listener, then you see talks, Kasoda relevant. No listener, then no use to talk. So therefore, you see, I think recent years, our activities now becoming more sort of Kasoda, more widespread because audience there. So I very much appreciate. Thank you. So, as I mentioned briefly, the 17 Nalanda master, these I usually describe professors of Nalanda. Not just you see carrying some rituals, no, philosophy and detailed explanation about our mind, about our emotion. So these really very, very relevant in academic level. So please, I never state Buddhism is best religion. I never state. Like medicine, according illness, according to patients, we can say this medicine is best. Generally, we cannot say this medicine is best. Similarly, according different people with different mental disposition, we can say this spiritual tradition is best for him or for her. Generally, we cannot say any religion, that religion is best. I think difficult to say. So therefore, I never try to propagate Buddhism in the West. Judeo-Christian background country. It is much healthier, much better to keep their own traditional faith. Whereas India, the land of Buddha Dharma, land of Buddha, and all these Nalanda masters, as I mentioned earlier, all are Indian, and mainly the South Indian. I think almost none, you see, the Northern Indian. All these masters come from South India. So sometimes I jokingly telling, South Indian brain is something very special. Thank you very much. So you, Northern Indian.
Thank you, Your Holiness. I'm not the one who can find the words to properly thank somebody like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I don't think there is anybody else in the world who can go through from the global to the local, back to the global, on the most complex issues that face us as individuals and humanity in such a deep and yet simple way as His Holiness does. His Holiness speaks from the heart, and many of us have lost contact with our hearts. So I hope that we will keep in mind some points that His Holiness has risen. He's gone from global responsibility based on the understanding of oneness of humanity, to the need to examine our own individual minds and those negative emotions that result in violence both locally and globally. We would do a great favor to ourselves if we were to think about this in every day of our lives. This world needs you, Your Holiness, to remind us of these values that we have and sometimes we forget. Therefore, we petition you in your own words, Holiness, please remain with us till space remains and until sentient beings abide to dispel the miseries of the world.
A very warm regards to Your Holiness and other honorable guests on the dais. I'm Pooja Dabral, a PhD student from Delhi University. Your Holiness, with your kind permission, now we come to the question-answer session of our inaugural ceremony. And the first question is asked by Mrinali: how to cultivate altruism towards a person who has caused you tremendous physical harm?
Oh, yes. Altruism is mental level. And then also, I think every physical action, verbal action, mental action, violent action, non-violent action. The real demarcation of non-violence and violence is not just based on action or appearances, but motivation. With compassionate motivation, sometimes it is necessary, harsh word. Sometimes, even I think a limited physical action also. Like I think a very, very kind, like my father, very kind, kind heart, right? But short temper. I remember, he loves his mustache. So when sometimes I just sit beside him, sometimes I tease, because picking up his his mustache. So then sometimes he loses temper and give me some blessing like that. So this action apparently very bit violence, but out of love. So essentially non-violence. So therefore, if some threat, even your life, then in order to stop their wrongdoing, out of sense of serious concern about their long-term well-being, you should take appropriate action to stop that. Okay. So compassion is mental level. Even anger, certain anger motivated by compassion, sense of concern of others' well-being. It's positive. Okay. Out of some sense of some cheating something and showing very nice smile and including some gift or praising is actually violence, because motivation is negative, want to cheat or take advantage, like that. So the mental training is the key factor, like that. Next question.
So out of the other collected questions, the second question is asked by asked by Purandhya. So she wants to know, sometimes one gets bogged down by the effort she or he is making to practice compassion, but it is frustrating at times to not have other people reciprocate the same level of love and kindness. At situations like this, how to hold on to patience and state of calm mind? How do you manage it, Your Holiness?
That is actually it's a source of concern. You show genuine, compassionate attitude, but then other even take advantage on that. Then that helpful to develop more serious sense of concern of their well-being. So now, I think when we practice altruism, or when we practice altruism, we have to sort of analyze how much benefit out of sort of practice of altruism. Firstly, the benefit from sort of practice of altruism goes oneself. Whether the altruistic attitude bring a peace of mind or other or not, also depend on their own mental disposition. I think I may sort of mention one occasion in Germany. It's one program. They invited me. So from my hotel, I went there by car. So as is my usual practice, whenever I met someone, I saw someone, I always smile. I feel satisfied. So I quite often in Japan, the Japanese is, I think, quite rare smile, isn't it? Very formality. So I often telling them, oh, please give me some smile. When they not smiling, then I, because of this, tickle, what do you call it? Tickle. Then smile come. So in any way, I always smiling. So one occasion, as I mentioned earlier, when I passing through street by car, one young lady coming the opposite direction. So as usual, I smiled. That, I think, my sort of compassionate expression, smile, I think brings some suspicion on her mind. So obviously, you see, dress is something different and quite strange. So, unknown, strange person now smiling, she may feel something goes wrong with that person. So she looks more sort of negative attitude. Then I also the freedom to turn my face like that. So this one example is the expression of my altruism not necessarily brings some peace to the other person's mind. So the first sort of benefit goes to oneself. Now, for example, 2008 crisis in Tibet. So at that time, the 10th of March, is our annual sort of meeting, commemoration. So after that, when I reached my place, my room, I received one my sort of staff member, who told me they received some information from Lhasa. Now, some demonstration is starting. I really felt, I immediately remember 59, 10th March or 17th March. So then, the next few days, I deliberately visualize or practice, give and take, that kind of practice. Give means I give them, firstly take their suspicion, I visualize those Chinese authority, to visualize them, and then out of genuine sense of concern of their well-being, take their anger, their fear, their suspicion. And I give, the spirit of tolerance, forgiveness, compassion. So that kind of practice. Of course, in the reality, there's no help. But mentally, immense help is to maintain peace of mind, to compassionate mind towards them. So, think, the value or benefit to oneself about the practice of compassion, altruism. Otherwise, usually people get the impression or practice of altruism is something good for others, not necessarily to oneself. That is totally a mistake. Like that. And then short-term interest, long-term interest. There's plenty of reasons. It is really, from selfish viewpoint, practice of altruism is best source of fulfillment of your temporary sort of goal and long-term goal.
So, Master Shantideva in his Bodhisattva Charyavatara says, if you're not able to exchange your own joy and happiness with the suffering of others, leave alone attaining Buddhahood, even in this samsaric life, you will not have happiness.
So therefore, then furthermore, it mentioned, then and she's an Nanga never done draw, she's in Najibo, this is not Najibo, Redung, Sour Shaw said, when a Tadisam, that's all Masu was living to.
And then further on, Master Shantideva says, which intelligent person would not ride the horse of bodhicitta, this spirit of enlightenment, which leads one from happiness to happiness, state of happiness to happiness, higher and higher. And so if you are able to cultivate such a inner strength and courage to work for others, then the prayer, which is also said by Shantideva in his Bodhisattva Charyavatara, which says that as long as the space remains and as long as there's sentient beings abide in samsara, may I too remain in order to dispel the suffering of the world.
So this practice, time factor is very important. Now modern time, external thing or technology, just as a press button, then everything move. Not like that. Even I think our physical growth after birth several weeks, several months, several years, you see, need for because of the fully develop our body. Similarly, certain mental sort of value, you need a lot of time to think, to familiarize, and think. For example, my own case, I think about altruism, at least I think 40 years I practice. Now, I can say I have a certain experience. It really brings inner peace. On the other hand, they sort of comparing the anger, attachment, that is another practice. That's meditation of shunyata. So that, I think, for me, at least, I think 60 years passed. When my age, or quite young, I think 13, 14, like that. And I think 19, like. Since then, I developed keen interest about a concept of shunyata, emptiness. So then, I always thinking about that. Now, after 60 years, I think some sort of, I think because of profound experience, you see, develop. As a result, nowadays, in my mind, anger and attachment, almost none. So these need time. If you expect some meditation, within a few weeks, some change, unrealistic. Even a few years, unrealistic. You need, decade by decade, constant effort because of the familiarize. And in order to do that, fuller knowledge is very important. So in order to carry, I think, a serious practice, knowledge is much more important than just a few ritual things. Ritual thing or recite some mantra, not much effect. According to my own experience, I think I recite many different mantras with different visualization, not much effect on my emotion. This practice of altruism, practice of shunyata, really obviously, you see, effect is my negative emotion. So you people who have some interest, practice, then you should keep determination, no matter, like you said, just Shantadevas or prayer. So long space remain, so long sentient beings suffering remain, I will remain. Such sort of determination. Then time, not important. Practice, implementation is really important. So like that. And then also, as Nagarjuna, you see, mentioned, if suffering there, even short period, unbearable. Without suffering, eons, doesn't matter. So like that, you see, this human intelligence, I think, very, very capable to think. In order to think, you need knowledge. Knowledge from hearing, knowledge from contemplation, knowledge from experience. So 3 levels of knowledge, like that. So therefore, the effort is very key factor. Next question.
Thank you, Holiness. We collected so many good questions, but due to the constraint of time and with permission of Your Holiness, I would like to ask the last question. And the question is asked by Kunchuk Sonamla, a student from Delhi University. He wants to know, what is the greatest need of nation building? Ethical politicians, kind businessmen, or moral students?
As I mentioned before, as soon as we reach India, our first sort of our effort is establishment of Tibetan school, separate school, where Tibetan language can teach. In the meantime, eventually, you see, special taking care about a monk student, it's a special arrangement. So therefore, I think any nation, particularly Tibet case, the political independence, of course, 7th century, 8th century, 9th century, 3 centuries, according ancient Chinese history book, it's clearly mentioned 3 empires at that time: Mongol Empire, Chinese Empire, Tibetan Empire. Then 6th, 9th century, Tibet disintegrated. Then politically, I think a lot because of the carelessness like that. But Tibetan nation sort of survived with Tibetan cultural heritage, especially language. Tibetan language, whole that area, Tibetan language unified Tibetan. And then in that, now today, I found that in order to explain about Nalanda sort of thought, Tibetan language is the best language to explain. I think ancient time, those translators who carry translation, I think they always, you see, jointly, one Indian master, Indian scholar, and a Tibetan translator jointly carry a translation. So these translation, very, very precise translation. Therefore, now today, I notice the best language to explain these sophisticated Nalanda philosophy and the science of mind. I think Tibetan language is the best language. So now, many scholars in Japan or China, scholars as well as Buddhists, and many Buddhist countries, mainly China, really now appreciate Tibetan language or knowledge. So therefore, I think a Tibetan spirit, no matter how difficult it is, Tibetan spirit kept by Tibetan, sort of say, ancient Kasota, our culture or our knowledge. I also, you see, I often is telling Tibetan, when we think, you see, these things, in Buddhist world, perhaps, I think, nearly 1 billion Buddhist population on this planet. China alone, 400 million Buddhists. So many of these people now really showing appreciation of Tibetan Buddhist knowledge. So many of these Chinese now following Tibetan Buddhism. So in the previous, in some Western sort of scholar described Tibetan Buddhism is Lamaism. Now gradually, you see, people realize Tibetan Buddhism, Buddhist tradition is truly Nalanda tradition. So therefore, you see, I think a study about, you see, these Tibetan sort of city there, Kasoda, I think, Tibetan tradition, Buddhism, Buddhist philosophy, and logic, Buddhist logic. I have some of my friend, you see, who eventually become lawyer. Previously, that person also study or participate some lesson about Buddhist or was it logic. So later, that person become lawyer. Then that person is expressed to some of his friend. Oh, study of Buddhist logic, very, very helpful for that person's sort of profession as a lawyer. So like that. So training of Buddhist logic, so your mind becomes sharpening and quite sort of critical. Whatever you heard, or some skepticism, why? Then further investigate. So that's, I think, one sort of unique sort of beauty of logic. Without a logic, just a faith. One day someone say, this is best. Then yes. Then next day another person say, oh, that's wrong, something different. Then again the person say, oh, yes. Thorough logical sort of analyze. Then once you develop conviction, then someone say, oh, that's wrong. And then no. You get, whether you answer openly or not, you feel, no. I thoroughly analyze and experiment. It proves. So then you see a different sort of person's sort of different sort of advice or suggestion won't change your sort of your conviction. So analytical meditation, use logic is very, very important. I publicly sort of stating
So in the traditional text, there's mention of two kinds of followers of the tradition, religious traditions or philosophical traditions. One is those who are dull-witted, and the others are those sharp-witted. So of these two types of beings, those who are dull-witted or who follow mainly on the basis of faith, blindly, regarding such persons, if we were to follow the teaching of the Buddha on that kind of ground or with only faith, then I'm not sure. I usually say that I'm not sure how long the Buddhist teaching, the tradition would last. But if you are able to follow Buddhism, Buddhist philosophy and so forth, through reason, and not just take these teachings on faith alone, but using reason, then I usually say that there's hope that the Buddhist tradition could last longer, for centuries.
Yes. No, thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness. So with this, we come to the end of question-answer session. We thank you very, very much, Your Holiness, for kindly responding to all our questions with tremendous warmth and compassion for us. Your Holiness, we pray, may you live very, very long for the benefit of all dear Mother Sentient beings. Thank you. Thank you, Your Holiness. Now I request Ms. Nilza Wangmo, a PhD student from Jawaharlal Nehru University, to convey the vote of thanks. Thank you.
On behalf of Tibet House, Delhi and Men-Tsee-Khang, I would like to humbly extend my heartfelt gratitude to His Holiness the Dalai Lama for gracing this occasion with his auspicious and sublime presence. We also thank you for unwaveringly bestowing upon this world the light of your wisdom and compassion. Your Holiness, may your blessings help proliferate the activities of Tibet House and Men-Tsee-Khang for decades to come and produce many scholars in the Nalanda tradition in the land of its birth. We are all indeed blessed to have you here with us. I would also like to thank our dignitaries on the dais, Honorable Shri Kiran Rijiju, Union Minister of State for Home Affairs, Honorable Shri Najib Jung, Lieutenant Governor Delhi, Venerable Karma Gelek Yuthok, Tibetan Cabinet Minister of Religion and Culture, Srimati Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan, Director Asia Project at IISc Delhi, for taking out your valuable time to be with us. I would like to thank Mr. Ngoduk Dongchung, representative of Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and Mr. Tenpa Tsering, Director India and East Asia Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama Delhi, and other distinguished guests for joining us. A big thank you to Geshe Dorje Damdul, Director Tibet House, and Mr. Tashi Tsering Puri, Director Men-Tsee-Khang, for organizing this wonderful event and for encouraging and inspiring young people to learn and grow. I would like to especially thank the Tibet House and Men-Tsee-Khang staff members. Without their hard work and dedication, this event would not have been possible. Ms. Tenzin Dejan, Secretary Tibet House, Ms. Pooja Dabral, Convener Tibet House, Mr. Ashok Arora, Accounts Officer Tibet House, Ms. Tenzin Chodan, Program Coordinator Tibet House, Mr. Kelsang Jigme, Media Coordinator Tibet House, Ms. Tenzin Gepel, PA to Director Men-Tsee-Khang, Mr. Tenzin Chokdan, Cashier Tibet House. I'd like to thank the monks of Gyumit Tantric Monastery and performers who participated in this ceremony. Thank you, volunteers and Flowering Dharma Group, for all the help rendered to us. Thank you, Thayagraj Stadium staff and security, for your cooperation. Thank you to all those who worked behind the scene, who set up the stage, and those in charge of the logistics. And last but not the least, I would like to thank the wonderful audience for bringing this huge empty stadium to life. In the end, may we all make our fervent prayers to His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, to remain with us until samsara ends. With this, we come to the end of the program. Thank you.
谢谢啊，谢谢谢谢谢谢。